Well, hey there, everyone. Doggin Days here. Well, folks, summer is upon us. The days are getting warmer, and much like the actual dog days of summer, I hope that this channel and the videos on it engender in everyone who watches feelings of exhaustion and physical discomfort. And so, in that spirit of overlong, exhaustive videos, today we will be covering not one, but two different tournaments I attended in May of 2025. As you can see on screen, these are back-to-back tournaments hosted on a single weekend, May 10th through 11th, and these are particularly important tournaments because they are store championships. So for those who aren't familiar with the Renegade Store Championships, these are officially sanctioned, Renegade-sanctioned events that have exclusive prizes, especially for the first place winners. So there is more at stake, and there's just a bit more, I guess, these are a bit more prominent tournaments than your casual kind of locally hosted event. The fact that Renegade is backing these tournaments gives them a little extra weight and prominence. So I was originally thinking of doing two separate videos for this, but I thought since they were both back-to-back and since they were both store championships, I thought I would combine my coverage of both of these events into a single video. I will try to keep this under 16 hours. We'll see how successful I am at that. But in any case, I will go ahead and talk about the stakes. What was at stake if you showed up to these tournaments, and what could you hope to win if you did well at them? So for all participants, there is a participation kind of consolation prize. So just for showing up to the tournament, you will get a set of Aquila-themed order markers. And so I know the Valkyrie Aquila has, in the lore or in the game, has a lot of fans. A lot of people seem to have really connected with Aquila, and that's great. And so for showing up, you'll get a nice set of kind of golden yellow Aquila order markers and a neat little collectible that you can get. Even if you lose every game, you'll still walk home with that. So that is a cool reason to show up at all. And then 2nd through 8th place will get a silver-based Iwashia Master of Tides figure. I don't believe the figure itself is any different from the vanilla figure you could get in the battle box. It's just that silver stamped base with the 2025 Store Championship written on it, and just a neat little promo figure. And 2nd through 8th place, it's very attainable. Even if you have bad rolls a couple of games, still likely you will walk away with the silver Iwashia if you plan your army and do well at that event. You'll also get a gold foil Iwashia card, so kind of a commemorative card that has the 2025 Store Championship logo stamped onto it. And so great prize and an attainable prize. This isn't like, you don't even necessarily have to make top cut at an event. I guess depending on the amount of people who show up, right? But usually 2nd through 8th, it's very attainable. So this was another great prize that you'd be able to walk home from. And then the big one for first place winners, the single person who wins the championship game at a store championship will walk away with a gold-based Iwashia. Again, I think it's the same paint job and the same figure as a silver-based, and therefore the same as the battle box, but it just has that gold stamped base with the 2025 store championship written on it. And then it'll come with a foil sticker as well, and this foil sticker I don't believe is different from the silver one, the one you would get with the silver Iwashia. I think they're both gold foil, but still really cool to have. And then another really big prize you can get from going to these tournaments and from coming in first place, you will get a day 2 buy at the 2025 Gen Con World Championship. So you can lock in a seat at the World Championship if you come in first place at any store championship. So really, really great prizes to win by going to these events. I think the season of these store championships is kind of winding down at the time of this video, but they are still going on. And so if you haven't been to one of these and you want to go, look around, go to the Heroscape Battle Network, check your area, check the dates, and see if one is being hosted. You might still have time to get in there and walk home with one of these prizes. So before I talk about the tournaments themselves, I want to kind of lay a little bit of a narrative background to this coverage. So these prizes were announced long before the tournaments were started, long before the store championships started. And my friend group, we saw them and we thought, oh, we gotta get these, we gotta get these. In a way, we were almost less concerned about the day 2 buy. We just wanted the cool figures and the order markers. So my friends and I, mainly Alex and Sammy and myself, we have kind of a group Heroscape collection. Sammy owns some figures, I own some figures, and then Alex owns some figures. So we just wanted to get these figures into our group collection. Alex in particular saw the gold Iwashia and he said, I need it. He he wanted that thing so bad when it was first released. I'm sure he would be happy with a day 2 buy if he got it, when he first saw these prizes. But he really honed in on that gold Awashia, and so I wanted to help him win it, and I wanted to help our team do well, and hopefully we would walk home with one or more of these prize sets if we went to the store championship. So that's part of why I went to 2 different store championships, to increase the odds that we would walk away with something, at least something. So that's kind of the background, and just one of my friends was really, 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 really invested in getting the gold Awashia. That's what he wanted, and he even told me, I don't care if it's a sweaty army, I don't care if people think I'm running meta cheese, I just need to win. So that was his headspace going into this, and we'll talk a little bit about how all that went down. First, let's talk about the first tournament that I attended. This was on May 10th, and this was one that I went to just by myself. This is a bit closer in my area. I live pretty far away from Alex. So this was a event called the Contemporary event, or Contemporary format. And so the unit pool is just Renegade units only. And this is up through April releases. So I think Air Marshal Zed Nesbitt, he did get an early release through the Renegade store. I don't know if he may have been tournament legal at the time. I'm not sure, but in any case, probably Zed Nesbitt was legal. But anything up through the April releases, you could bring to this Renegade event. The points limit was 500, and this was in Renegade points. We'll talk a little bit about that. Figure limit was 20. And there was no rule about it, but effectively no common or uncommon limits, because Age of Annihilation at this time, we now know that there are common units coming out for Age of Annihilation, but at this time, AOA was only uniques. And so this was going to be an all-unique event. Special rules, and this is the case with all store championships. I'm sure in some cases there are tournament directors who, are lenient and will allow for leniency here in this case, but officially, the regulation is all figures, cards, and dice and other game pieces must be official. I think mainly figures and cards, because even if you 3D print something, you can kind of mess around in Blender and kind of mess with the hit zones. So I can understand why they would say, yeah, it has to be all official. That's challenging for someone who has a limited collection, but that's the way these official tournaments go. So all cards, dice, and other pieces have to be official. So I can understand it from a tournament organizing standpoint, but whatever. Anyway, so those are the rules for the Contemporary event. And just again, I've shown this before. You can go ahead and pause the screen if you want to, but these are the 10 units from Classic Heroscape that were rebalanced in Renegade points. These actually won't apply to this tournament. They will apply to the next tournament I talk about. But on screen you can see yellow was their classic point cost, and then the turquoise right after it is the new rebalanced price for them. These are generally good rebalances. These are all strong units that needed a rebalance. I'm fine with that, but beyond that, Renegade is essentially classic beyond these 10 units. So effectively, for this event, for this contemporary-only event, we're using classic points. So anyway, we'll go ahead and talk about the theory crafting that went into the army that I brought to this event. But I wanted to start by kind of thinking about contemporary format as a reflection on Age of Annihilation so far. So running a contemporary event is essentially a reflection on what strong units have come out of Age of Annihilation so far for a competitive event. And so we'll go over these bullet points here. While common units have been announced, the pool of available units for this event were all unique. Covered that. When only official figures are allowed, Contemporary is much more accessible to all players because all figures that can be used for it are readily available at reasonable prices. Cheaper unpainted figures are a great budget option too. This is a point in Contemporary's favor, I think, is I like the idea that kind of the more official competitive scene is going to focus more heavily on Contemporary, and while that does exclude some really great all-time builds and really mechanically interesting all-time builds, I think the priority is getting more people involved in the game and making the game more accessible to people. And I think by doing that, it's a good idea to restrict the unit pool to figures you can just go to a local game store and buy. Even if they're unpainted, it's fine. The sculpt is all that matters. And so it's so much cheaper, especially when only official figures are allowed. If it's 3D printing, whatever. But if only official figures are allowed, then all-time format is really, and that's the next point here, all-time official only really is pay to win. You know, can you buy a ton of official Death Chasers? Can you buy a ton of official, I don't know, Knights of Weston? You know, those really become pay to win formats. And so I like Contemporary as a format that can welcome in more people and make it more accessible for more people to play. However, the caveat at this stage in time, AOA Contemporary is still young and its roster is limited and not well developed. And so drafting for Contemporary currently is a matter of choosing from a very small list of strong units in the still small AOA roster. So, you know, Classic roster is really big. There's a handful of super competitive units. Contemporary roster is very small right now, and there's an even smaller amount of competitive units in that. So really, at this stage, it will change as more units get released into the game, but at this stage in Contemporary, it's a pretty limited meta right now, and so that's a criticism right now, but I'm sure that'll get fixed in time. Anyway, those are some reflections, and with that in mind, I want to talk about what I think, you know, in my limited experience, what I think those strong units of AOA so far have been, and which units have proven themselves to be competitively viable, at least in the Contemporary format. So first we're going to talk about some strong combos of AOA. These are units that complement each other or bond with each other, and the first we'll talk about is Halusha plus the Familiars, the Battle Box Familiars. So depending on how you spec this out, this is 150 to 200 points. This includes Halusha, Kita, and Onshu, as the latter two being the two familiars. And so some of the strengths of this combo, it has bonding. A hero activates another hero, so Halusha can activate one of his familiars. There's a lot of mobility that this army offers. All units in it have at least 6 move. Halusha has 7 move. And then Kita, or I shouldn't say Kita, Onshu has flight, so increased mobility there. So it's a generally fast-moving army. It can be quite offensive. Halusha's base 5 attack is pretty strong, and it's also capable of 5 attacks in one order marker. So this is if you were to do Halusha's Ride-By special, which is 3 attacks, and then Onshu's Sonic Blast, which is 2 attacks. So a single order marker on Halusha can actually produce 5 attacks in a single order marker. That's very good. It has glyph grabbing potential. The familiars are good at this. Kita especially. Kita is probably the best glyph grabber in Age of Annihilation with her apparition ability. So figures cannot shoot her unless they're within, figures must be within 2 spaces of Kita. So they have to get pretty close to Kita before they can even shoot her at range. So she's great at glyph grabbing, and she's fast. She can secure it quickly. And then ranged flying. This is always a handy tool to have in your toolbox. Onshu's Sonic Blast. So Onshu has 6 move plus flight. If anyone's familiar with playing with the Wormlings, the ability to ignore elevation and just count your movement horizontally, just 6 spaces, and then have range on top of that. A single tiny little ranged flying figure, and this also goes for large ranged flying figures, but a single little ranged flying figure can threaten huge areas of the board because of that. So it's generally seen as a pretty good combo, or at least I see it as a good combo. So those are the strengths of Halusha and the Familiars. Next up, excuse me, we have Fiabani plus the Knaves. I talked a little bit about this in the last video, and I have to credit Raigai again for kind of tuning me into this potential combo. But this is Fiabani plus the Knaves of the Silver Scimitar. I again, like I said in the last video, I sort of overlooked this combo and didn't really. I thought they were okay, but not ultra competitive. But there are strengths that this combo provides, and I do think they're worth a mention here on this list. So strengths are bonding. The squad activates the hero, so the Knaves can select Fiabani as their pirate captain, and then once they do that, they can bond with her. Offensively, this is, I think, the most impressive thing about the army. It's capable of 5 attacks of 4 in one order marker, which is fantastic output. Fiabani's base 4 attack plus the Knaves' first assault. First assault can be a little tricky. You have to have the Knaves rush in. They can't be engaged at the start of their move in order to activate first assault, but it is possible, and if you can get it, I'm sure you'll kill plenty of figures in that order marker. It's a slippery army too. All figures have disengage, so they can go wherever they want, essentially. They don't have Phantom Walk, but they can, you can't tie them down. If they don't like a fight they're in, they can book it. So I think that's really handy. Strong range too. Fia's base 4 attack plus black powder pistol. She can only shoot 3 times. She can only shoot at range 3 times in a game, but still, that may be all you need. And A 4 base attack at range is great. If you get her on height, that's 5 attack at range. Excellent, excellent. Then this army has some range resistance. So Fia's Master of Disguise, this technically is for any attack, range or melee. It works against all squad attackers. If you roll a 13 or higher, she can't be targeted for this attack or any other attack on that turn. So that's great. And then the Knaves will get a defense bonus because of the Captain's Way. So if they're shot from range, if they're close to their pirate captain, they get an extra defense die. So this can be a good army if you're going into a ranged army. This can be a good combo if you're rushing into a ranged formation on the opponent's side. It's a good counter to that, I think. They have a good chance of killing any ranged figure with 5 attacks of 4 and 1 order marker. So again, I wanted to give it a shout out here. I think it has some impressive tools and is worth mentioning. Next up, we have the Bears. The Bears. Again, I have my reasons for why I'm exhausted with this army, but it's very, very good. I just don't find it mechanically interesting because it's so good. This is a Frostclaw Paladins plus Knight Primus Edelburn. This is 270 points. I should also say Fiabani, if you want to run both of them, is 145 points. Anyway, back to the frickin' Bears. 270 points to run both of these units. It's great. It is objectively great. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, it's not for me. I don't enjoy playing it. But let's talk about why someone might. Bonding. Squad activates the hero. The Frostclaws will activate Knight Primus. That's potential for 5 attacks in a single turn, 5 activations in a single order marker. That's great. Offensively, it's very impressive. Adelburn's base 5 attack and his crushing blow it's modern Grimnack. It's an auto destroy into small and medium commons, and I think small and medium unique squad figures too. So he can just point and delete before he drops his base 5 attack. Very offensive, very, very tanky too. The survivability of this combo is impressive. 2 life squad figures are always great. Each Frostclaw can take a wound and still remain on the board, so that means that if you have an order marker on them in the next turn, they're still there and you still get full activations even if they've absorbed some damage. They have bonding also with the high stamina 8 life Adelburn. So Adelburn's defense may be average at 3, but 8 life, he lasts a long time. So this is a sturdy combo, and it's just another reason why it's so good. Mobility. If it wants to be, this can be a very fast army. Adelburn has base 6 moves, so he's very mobile. And then the Bears, at an attack, at a cost of attack value, they can activate their run, and they can buff their move to 6 as well. So they can certainly keep up with Adelburn if they need to. So it's fast too. And then glyph grabbing. The Frostclaws are good at this if you need them to. I think a lot of times you want them in the fight. I think it's good to have 4 attacks of 3 plus Adelburn, in the front lines. But if there's a really valuable glyph you need to control, you can put a Frostclaw on there, and he'll probably hold it for a good few turns, even if he's attacked. So this army just does it all. Really, the only thing it doesn't have is range, but it doesn't need it. It's fast, it's tanky, and it is excellent. So no question, this is one of the best combos in AoA so far. Next is the Eisenach. They're certainly worth mentioning here. This is, again, pre-Scavarith. So Scavarith, Lord of Ruin, he's coming out soon. I'm sure he's going to make this even more effective, but this is worth noting. So the essential unit in this configuration is Iron Lich. You have to have him, and it's 240 points to 370. I really think the best version of this is all 3 of them together, because I think then you're really getting your money's worth in terms of points. Strengths. The hero activates either another hero or a squad, so as long as you have your order markers on Iron Lich, you can take a turn with either the Necrotech or the Hellforge if both of them are in your army. That's some great flexibility. Mobility. This is a surprisingly fast army. Necrotech's base 8 move, which is incredible. Hellforge has Eisenach Advance, so if you have all your order markers on Eisenach figures, he gets a free move at the start of I think the round. And then Viscerat's move buff via Vial Injection. So Viscerat can buff the move of any figure in this army by 2 for a single turn. So if you need a Necrotech to absolutely charge forward and engage someone, you can do that. You've got that flexibility. So if it wants to be, it can be fast. Offense. Viscerat's attack buff via Vial Injection. So just like with the move buff, he can buff any figure for a single turn. can be quite powerful. And then Hellforge's Blast Furnace. So this is a chance for auto wounds. So it's kind of like the Fire Elementals or Avernus from VC. You can move him through a bunch of enemy figures, and you get a chance to burn every single one that he passes. So it's very good. Then survivability. This army has a lot of hit points to it. 2-life squad with the Necrotech, so each Necrotech can take a wound, remain on the board, just like the Frostclaws. Again, that's great. They can take some damage, but they'll still be there for full activation, hopefully, for the next turn, or still more likely to be there than a 1-life squad. And then Hellforge has Feed the Forge, which allows him to self-heal. That's really impressive, especially on a figure that has 6 life and 4 defense. I have been genuinely surprised and humbled by how difficult Hellforge has been to fight, or at least how difficult I have found him to fight. Even with armies I thought would be good to Hellforge, he's always been a challenge for me to take down. So that's great. And then Glyph Grabbing. Necrotech can be good at this. They're a 2-life squad, so they're a bit more durable than your average squad figure. They're also fast, so if you really need to grab a glyph, you can rush them out, 8 move, or if it's absolutely essential you get that glyph, you can buff up the Necrotech with Vial Injection and buff him to 10 move, which is just crazy. So definitely strong, and definitely worth mention here. And then next up we're getting into, I want to make sure I didn't miss any. This one I think maybe is on the borderline honorable mention, maybe not as strong as some of the others that have been coming out, but I still think it's worth talking about here because I've actually been kind of impressed by it in terms of the casual games I've played with it, and I think it does have tools even in an intense competitive setting. So this is the Oathbound Scordier, one of the bug builds. These are the Oathbound Legionnaires and the Oathbound Phalanx. Together this is 130 points, so actually not that expensive. It won't take that much out of your army to draft this. Bonding. Hero will activate the squad, so the Phalanx can activate the Legionnaires. Offensively, it's capable of 5 attacks of 3 and 1 order marker, can auto-destroy small medium figures with the Phalanx's all-as-one special. So, yeah, I mean, for 130 points, it's a lot of dice you're rolling in a single turn, and that auto-destroy potential is always useful if you can get it. Survivability mainly comes through the Phalanx's one falls, the swarm survives power, which is effectively wound negation. So it's kind of like the Mesodemons. It's sort of like a super exoskeleton on the Mesodemons. So Mesodemons, they can negate wounds that they receive from normal attacks, but I believe for the Oathbound, it's normal attacks or special attacks. And I think even even leaving engagement attacks ignore all wounds the Oathbound would have received when the Oathbound Phalanx would receive 1 or more wounds. So it doesn't specify if this is LEA, doesn't specify if it's special attack, and doesn't specify if it's normal. Just anytime they'd receive wounds, even from a special power, anytime they'd receive wounds, you can just remove a Legionnaire from it and ignore all wounds. So that's probably the best version of wound negation that exists in the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one of the best. So that it's noteworthy. And then mobility, Legionnaires with base 6 move and disengage. So the Phalanx is a bit slower because look at it, it's just a mass of bugs. But the Oathbound Legionnaires, they're pretty fast and they're slippery. 6 move with disengage, very, very attractive. And then Glyph Grabbing, the Legionnaires can do this if they need to. Usually I think you want them a bit closer to the Phalanx, but again, in a pinch, if you absolutely need to control a glyph, 6 move, they can grab it. So again, this might be a bit more of an edge case, maybe more of an honorable mention, but I do like the build, I do like the combo, and I just wanted to mention it here, give a little shout out. But for people who like the Scordier, who like this race and like this faction in Heroscape, the real competitive superstar of this faction, of this species, is Queen Maledrix and the Honor Guard. This is a 220-point investment, and it's on par with the Bears, I would say. It's punching in that league as far as one of the best combos so far in Age of Annihilation. Really, really impressive. Its strengths are, as you can see, all these combos have bonding. Every single one of these combos has bonding. In this case, the hero activates the squad, so Queen Maledrix can take a turn first with her Festering Honor Guard, which is sort of an unusual it's an unusual order, but it makes sense. She can move out her Honor Guard first to kind of clear the area for her, to make an area safer for her, and then she can move in. So they're escorting her into a battle, which is thematic and cool, and also competitively, mechanically effective. Offense, this is an army that's capable of a whopping 7 attacks in a single order marker. So Maledrix is base 4 attack with double attack, and then the Festering Honor Guard as a 5-figure squad, and that's historic too. There's no 5-figure squad in the game besides the Honor Guard. They, as a 5-figure squad, they can 7 attacks, you can see. 2 from Maledrix, and then 5 from the Festering Honor Guard. You can 7 attacks in a turn. That's very good. And then the Festering Honor Guard's Motherless Rage will trigger if Maledrix dies before they do. So if she dies, all surviving Honor Guard can buff their attack to 3, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're throwing 5 figures with 3 attack, it can get work done. So that's very good. Mobility, all figures have base 6 move, which is very important. And it's fast too, so it's hard to avoid this if it's coming for you. Glyph grabbing, the Festering Honor Guard can do this as a 5-figure squad. One reason that this is they're especially good at this is because part of the playstyle of the army is you kind of want a few Festering Honor Guard to die so that you can begin attempting for infestation through Maledrix. So if you put a Festering Honor Guard on an important glyph, if the opponent's like, do I want to risk him getting an infestation by killing an Honor Guard, or do I really need him off that glyph? So you can force your opponent into difficult situations like that, and that's one thing the army's very good at. It's also a hero counter, and this is Maledrix's Infestation. The Infestation has a chance to instantly destroy any unique hero in play. It's kind of hard to get, but not that hard to get. You can see with Parasite here, if you roll a 17 or higher, any figure that has been parasitized or infested, 17 or higher, that figure is destroyed. Doesn't matter its life count, doesn't matter, it's gone. 17 or higher happens more often than you think. So I think this is a pretty scary army, pretty scary combo to face. And then finally, Figure Revival. If you get a successful infestation or parasite roll, in place of the destroyed figure, the Festering Honor Guard will be dropped on the board. So Maledrix, if there's a lot of unique heroes, Maledrix, in a weird way, can sort of sustain her army. It's really impressive. It's really impressive. So definitely one of this and the Bears are probably the 2 best combos right now in Age of Annihilation. Although I'm open to hearing arguments for others, certainly. But that's my assessment. So yeah, those are the strong combos of AoA that I have so far. And now we'll talk about some strong standalone units of AoA. So Exiles of the Sundered Sea, people know these guys really well. They're a 4-figure squad, 75 points. 4 figures is always great. They're resistant to normal and special ranged attacks via their stealthy power. A lot of times, wound negation or, kind of dodge powers like this, they'll only work against normal attacks. I think of the Nikita agents with smoke powder. Yes, 13 or higher, you can negate a normal attack, but anytime it's normal and special, you really inoculate these figures against a whole range of different types of attacks. 13 or higher, that's a good roll threshold. So stealthy is one of their probably their most impressive power. But they are also slippery. They have disengage, so a 4-figure squad with disengage. They can go where they please, and then black powder pistols. So they can increase their range to 5 3 times in a game, and if you have all 4 figures on the board, that can be pretty scary. So for 75 points, this is a lot of value in a single standalone figure. I think this goes up to like 90 or 95 points in Delta, but they're very, very good, and they can go with any army. Sonlin, again, maybe a bit more of an honorable mention, but I do like what he does. He has high mobility, 6 move with flight, which is great. He's ranged flying, so 6 move plus 6 range. Very, very few spaces on the board are safe from an attack from Sonlin if he wants to get someone. Strong range, 4 attack, 6 range, that's excellent. And then the powerful double attack via Dragon Assault. So Dragon Assault is kind of a better version of double attack. You can potentially get 1 attack of 4 and then 1 attack of 5 if you use flight once in the turn. So I think a big sweet spot in Heroscape is double attack with 4 base attack, something that Maledrix has and something that VC unit like Morgoloth has. If a unit has that, and then there's also Milky in Age of Annihilation 2. She has that too. So Sonlin has it, and I think it's a better version of it. And so he's great in melee too if he has to get his hands dirty. And then he has a flexible healing power, so he can heal someone that he flew over or that he landed adjacent to. And a heal on 13 or higher, again, just like with Stealthy, 13 or higher is a very good threshold for that. So Sonlin, much like his original incarnation, he's got lots of tools. And I think he works pretty well as a standalone figure. And then next we have Ordo Borealis, one of the other bear units. Because they don't have any bonding power, they work just fine on their own. They're a good standalone unit. They're a 2-life squad, so just like all the other bears, each Ordo can take a wound and remain on the board, which is great for a ranged unit or a potentially ranged unit. They have long range of 7, or long range potential of 7 range via their reload. Again, you have to set it up. You have to put your figures in a place where you want them to stay, and then if they move that turn, they can't fire, but if they stay put in that turn, they have 7 range. So their threat, you might say their actual threat range is a bit low, but if they stay put, if they've got a spot they like, 7 range potential is pretty good, especially at 3 attack. They are maybe another sort of honorable mention situation, but in general, I do think they're pretty good, especially if you buff them with Concan. They're pretty powerful. That's 3 ranged attacks of 4. That's excellent. So again, these guys can fit into any army that you have the points for. It's 110 points. So yeah, those are some standalone figures. And now we'll get into the ones that I thought were really honorable mentions, that I thought just, they're good, but maybe not quite up to this par with the other units that I talked about here. So first is a Leviatech plus Raylin. This is 180 points. Reason these guys are good is they have some very dangerous auras. Raylin specifically, that she can drop the defense of any enemy figure by 1 within 4 spaces of her. That's really dangerous, especially when paired with the Death Knights. You're dropping anyone in her aura by 3 defense, and that's usually enough to kill anything. Well, not anything, but most like squad figures. It's really scary. And then Leviatech has Brutality aura, so squad figures, they can, within 4 spaces of Leviatech, if they're attacking with a normal attack, they can re-roll 1 attack per turn, I think, that did not show skulls. They can re-roll any dice that didn't show skulls, so that can be very devastating. Dynastic Leadership too. Once you have both of these, Dynastic Leadership triggers, and they can empower entire Utgar armies. So if you do an all Utgar army with these 2 in it, you can make that army pretty fast. So those are 2 really great support buffs that these 2 offer any army they're in. The problem with them in Contemporary is that their army building options are pretty limited. They might be interesting with the Exiles, I guess, but even still, they seem better in all time because there's more army building options, more powerful Utgar cores you can fit these guys into. So they're very good, but I think in Contemporary they are a bit limited. Next up is Dorm, the Bulkhead Brawler. By no means a bad unit. Pretty strong. He's 100 points. His Chain Axe is an attack reroll ability. It's on 4 attack, his 4 base attacks, so rerolling 4 base attack is very... it's good attack consistency. And then his charge ability, since he can work with the Knaves of the Silver Scimitar, when you charge with him, he helps them with their first assault, so he gives them all a potential move buff of 1, so their move goes from 5 to 6, and that can be helpful getting their first assault if they need a little extra speed to engage their targets. Problem with him, I think, is, again, I think he's better in all time. I think he's slightly outclassed by Fia with the Knaves. I believe, let me gotta make sure I scroll back up. I want to make sure I read the Knaves right. Start of game, choose unique captain you control, be the Knaves. Before taking a turn with the Knaves, you may first take a turn with their chosen captain or a pirate hero. Yeah, so I want to make sure I clarified that and make sure my notes are correct. But with Dorum, he can bond with them. He can't be their chosen captain because he's only a pirate. But still, if you charge with him, or if you attack with him and activate charge, the Knaves can follow. And yeah, that's still 4 attacks of 5 and still pretty good. But again, I think with the Knaves, Fia is probably the best option for the points. So that's the only reason I think he is honorable mention in Contemporary. But in all time, he can bond with the Axe Grinders, and that's a pretty strong combo too. So by no means a bad unit. The next up is Knight Irene, also very solid. She's 110 points. She can be very fast with her run ability, so she has 7 move with run if she decides to run. She's currently the highest attack volume through the Frost Claws. So if you do the Frost Claws plus Irene, that is the highest amount of attacks you can get off per order marker. So Frost Claw's 4 attack plus her Overwhelm Special, which is 2 separate attacks. That's a total of potential 6 attacks in 1 order marker with the Frost Claws. It's very good. Main problem with her is that she's just outclassed by Adelburn in Renegade points, and even in Classic too. Adelburn's only 40 points more. He gets auto delete, he's got better stats, and his base move is 6. so he doesn't need to run and give up his normal attack strength. He just hits hard with every time he attacks at 5 attack, and he's got 6 move regardless. So Adelburn is just frankly better, but Irene, by no means bad. And before Adelburn came out, Irene and the Frostclaws were showing up at a lot of events that allowed contemporaries, so definitely deserves a mention here. And then next up we have Zenithrex the Vine Weaver. Now, again, she is very expensive at 200... I'm just kidding with you. Next up is Awashia and the Familiars. Awashia is 145 points through 195 points, depending on how you spec this out. Usually I like to carry both Familiars into battle alongside Awashia when I play her. She has bonding with Kita or Anshu, and that's always strong. She has a strong range attack with Twister Special. I think this is probably the main reason I like drafting her, is she's a potential for 4 attack at 6 range at only 115 points. That's not bad, and you can actually hit multiple figures with Twister Special if the figures are lined up in such a way. So I think offensively that's great. She can kind of stand back and fire her Twisters, and that's something she likes to do with Create Water, so she can set up very strong positions with herself by depositing water tiles. It is true that you need a couple turns to set up her water position, but if you build it up and you reduce the enemy to maybe just melee figures, then you can really abuse that range, I think, pretty impressively. But the main problem with her is that the water hex location on a map and the amount of water on a map, it can limit her potential. So if you're going on... That's my view anyway. I think she goes down in Delta by 20 points, maybe? Yeah, I think. She's like 95 in Delta, I'm not sure, but she does go down a little bit in Delta, and from my experience playing with her, my limited experience playing with her, if you're on a map that doesn't have any water, while she can put water down of her own, it's only 3 tiles, and so she's really limited to those. She has to stay close to that little puddle that she made. On a map with more water, she's amazing. She's great. Where she can go anywhere and still throw twisters at people. She's more mobile, but on a map with no water, she becomes a bit like kind of like a turret almost. So that's kind of something limiting her, especially in Contemporary. Next up, we have Thyraxis Dragoon, 195 points. I love it as someone who plays the Nagrubs and Hive Lords a whole lot. I have a lot of fun with Hive Lords and Grubs. Thyraxis Dragoon is highly offense-oriented with 5 attack and Battle Frenzy, so once he gets engaged, he can potentially attack indefinitely. He can keep attacking if he keeps rolling 16 or higher. It's a little hard to do, but sometimes when you chain it, you can waste heroes with that. So that's really, or a squad formation if you're engaged with multiple. So that's really impressive. And then Maddening Chitter, probably the main reason to draft Thyraxis into an army. It can influence opponents into suboptimal order marker replacement. So even if you never get Maddening Chitter over the course of an entire game, the sheer threat of it, I think, can make opponents place their order markers in ways that they wish they didn't have to, because they're trying to protect themselves against a successful Maddening Chitter. And then if you do get a successful Maddening Chitter, you can mess with their order marker replacement. You can move one order marker to another figure, and that can ruin bonding armies. So the scare factor of Thyraxis Dragoon is very high. I didn't mention this here, but I also like Thyraxis for its survivability. It's the same survivability as Torkulna, which I think is the best Hive Lord still for the Martin Nagrubs. So seeing another figure with that same life and defense stat is very good. The problem is, I don't think by itself it's quite up to some of the other armies that might show up in Contemporary right now anyway. It's better in all-time when you can bring Nagrubs to bond with it and support it. So with that, I think I have one more. Yes, Mage Q11, 160 points. Really, really impressive stat line, especially within Contemporary. I think one thing I think about when I think about just Contemporary formats are the kind of, I guess, the new average stat line. So in classic all-time D&D Heroscape, there are all kinds of wild stat lines. Like Charaz has 9 life. Jotun has 8 attack. There's all-time format goes crazy with the range of stat lines you see in it. But right now, I think Contemporary is kind of playing it a bit safe. Stat lines don't get too wild so far in Contemporary, but Mage Q11 has, within this Contemporary meta, He does have a very impressive stat line. He's got 4 life and 6 defense. That's very sturdy. That's a lot of dice you're rolling to protect yourself. But I think what's impressive about him is his 6 attack. Now there are figures with 6 attack. Zenithrax for one, she has 6 attack, but she's 200 points. For 160 points, you can get that same base attack and a little bonus when you're attacking in melee with Vidar's Hammer, which I believe is an auto wound if you get a successful wound with your main attack with Vidar's Hammer. My main problem with... Oh, I should mention too, he is capable of 3 ranged attacks in a single turn with Full Barrage Special. So it's a bit reminiscent of Major Q9, which I'm sure was part of the inspiration. Technically in the lore, Q10 is a rebuilt version of Major Q10. They're definitely channeling the past Soulborg Majors of Heroscape. But the problem is, I have pretty limited experience with Major Q11. I have found Full Barrage to be kind of tricky to set up and take full advantage of. I like being able to get all 3 of those attacks in one turn, but his farthest range attack is pretty weak at only 2. He becomes a bit more threatening when the opponent gets close to him, but anyway, if there's a trick to playing him, I haven't yet discovered it, but he deserves an honorable mention because he does have a very impressive stat line, and I'm sure he would do well in Contemporary, even if it's not the most meta version of that army, or the most meta army you could bring. So anyway, that's an honorable mention. So yeah, with all that out of the way, that's kind of a broad reflection on what my thoughts are so far on the competitive AoA scene, the competitive contemporary scene. So with that on screen, these are all the units that got mentioned in what I think are the competitive contemporary units. And again, maybe the Oathbound guys here a bit more of an edge case, but I would say essentially theory crafting for a contemporary event at the time that I was is essentially building your army out of units from this pool. Anything else, it's not going to cut it for you. That's my thinking on it. And so, oh yes, I copied this from the other, but going into this event, I told myself, no bears. I am not playing the bears. I don't care how meta they are. I want nothing to do with them. I'm not playing them. So Night Irene, nope. Frostclaws, nope. Adelbird, nope. And Ordo, nope. Even though I like Ordo, I think mechanically the most interesting unit of all the bears released so far are the Ordo. You do have to think a little bit about how you set them up and when to reload, when to move them. So I at least like the challenge that they provide me, but nope, no bears. I don't want anything to do with them. So with that said, I want to talk about what for this format really did, and it wasn't just to me, it was many other people who were observing this format when it was announced. This is the quote-unquote strongest army for the format. So basically, you bring this army, you are very likely to do well, if not win it outright. So this is Queen Maledrix, the Festering Honor Guard, plus Knight Primus and the Frostclaw. So again, you're just picking from that really small pool of competitive units that I put up on screen earlier. It's tiny, but just basically what from that list can I get with 500 points? Boom. You've got it. This army does it all, except for range, but doesn't matter. It's a fast army, tons of attack volume, lots of attack volume, sturdiness with the bears, potential to destroy heroes with Queen Maledrix. You can destroy squad figures with Knight Primus. It does it all. So it's super optimized. Yeah, you have to sit 10 points, but it doesn't matter. This army is going to do very well in this format. But we're not running the bears. No bears. I'm not doing it. I do want to win. I am trying to win this format. I am trying to take this seriously, and I'm trying to compete. So what does that leave me? Well, it leaves me with these two. So feeling that this is the best army, and there's 2 units in it I'm not going to run, I've just decided, okay, no bears, but I will do Maledrix and the Honor Guard. I like them in the lore, and it made me happy. So I was fine with bringing them. To me, even though Honor Guard, this is just me, but even though the Honor Guard and the bears I see as roughly the same, Maledrix and the Honor Guard, I see them as roughly the same power level thereabouts, especially in Contemporary. For me, Maledrix and the Honor Guard is way more mechanically interesting. I just think there's a lot more going on in that army with how you place it. Do you sacrifice your Honor Guard? And also, when you fight it, there's a lot more you have to think about facing it, With the bears, it's just like fighting stats. There's just not a whole lot going on. It's like, whatever. Are my stats better than the bears? Let's hope we can chip away Adalbern's life count. But at least with Maledrix, it's like, do I want to engage her? She's got her double attack. Do I want to kill the Festering Honor Guard? If I do, I can lower the amount of attacks I have to face, but also give her a chance to infest. I just think there's so much more going on mechanically with the Honor Guard. So if I'm going to pick one meta combo for this event, it's going to be the Honor Guard. So with that, let's get into the actual theory crafting that I went through for this event and how I decided to spec it out. So I really liked the Knaves plus Fiabani army combo that Ryguy introduced me to. And so I thought, ooh, you know, I don't think a lot of people would bring that to this event. You know, they're a little squishy. I think people might underestimate them. I certainly did. You know, so what if I brought them? That'd be kind of a surprise draft. And so I thought, okay, Queen Maledrix, Festering Honor Guard, Fia, and the Knaves. And then I had, let's see, a couple points left over. And I like the idea of throwing in the Exiles, just because they're a standalone unit and I need filler, and I don't have enough for any other strong combos at that point in time. And that's when I started thinking, hey, you know, this is kind of a spammy army in terms of the number of figures. Maybe that's the strength. Maybe that's the unique strength I'll bring to this event, is that I will be wielding the highest figure volume of any of the other armies at the event. So I called this the figure spam army. With the 60 points left over, I was actually thinking of throwing in Tuck. I know he's not super competitive, but, you know, he's all right. He can do some things, and he can glide in, so I don't know. And he's got a little range, maybe kind of good as an endgame cleanup unit. Yeah, I thought that might be interesting. But again, I did think a little better on it. I didn't end up going with this army, because I said, you know, maybe in a casual tournament play this, but this is a store championship, man. There's a bit more on the line. We got to take this a little more seriously. So I ultimately decided not to run with this army, but I was interested in this army for the sheer volume of figures that it would bring, and maybe that would help me overcome the high power of some of the other units I might face. One other reason I didn't do Fiabani and the Knaves, I just thought they were too squishy for this event. I thought, what if the Knaves get a one turn where they roll bad into the Bears? The Bears are just going to pummel them, you know, next turn. So I just don't think they have the stamina to last in Contemporary. I could be wrong, but that was just my intuition. This isn't an army I was seriously thinking about, but I just wanted to mention it here. I think there is an even spammier version. If you're going for sheer figure volume, if you get rid of Tuck and you sit 10 points, you can actually raise from 16 figures to 19 figures. I think 19 is the most amount of figures you can fit in Contemporary right now at 500 points. So didn't end up running it, kind of a meme army, but I just noticed it here and I thought, oh yeah, you could actually get even spammier than this. Still though, I like the idea of high figure volume, and I did want to keep the Exiles because I know they're good, I know they're going to do well, and I like the number of figures in that. That goes well with Maledrix and the Festering Honor Guard, so that's a total of 10 figures just between those three units. So I eventually settled on this army. This is what I call kind of the middle ground army. So it has 13 figures, which is a lot, especially if I think I'm going to be facing Maledrix and Bears, that combo. This is a lot of figures, but I also like adding in Halusha. Halusha is offensive. He's got stamina with his 7 life. He's fast, and I like the familiars as glyph grabbers and little extra attackers on the board. I thought this was a good, and you can see the points actually round out a bit more nicely under the 500. So 495 points, 13 figures. I have a lot of figures to play with, but the figure quality I just thought was a little bit better, and so I thought this is a good middle ground with all the things I'm looking for in an army, and this is ultimately the one that I would settle on and bring to the tournament. Okay, and game day began on May 10th. This was at Paradise, good name, in Vista, California. This was a Swiss-style tournament, similar to the other tournaments I've been to in the last couple of events. I believe these were 59-minute games. I can't confirm that, but that's my guess. What I can confirm is the very low number of people who were attending. This was only a 5-player event, which means everyone gets an Awashia. First place will walk home with a gold Awashia. Everyone else, top 5 players, they're all in the top 8, so they'll all walk home with either a silver or a gold Awashia. So that was great to hear. So we all got our Aquila order markers and the knowledge that we were all walking away with a cool promo prize figure. So that was great. So I'll talk about the first game that I went to. These were maps that were built using the tournament organizer kit, or the store championship kit. So Renegade sent stores that were hosting store championships terrain kits to build maps with, and there's a certain number of maps that can be built using that terrain kit. This is one of them. I was not able to find the name of the map, so if this looks familiar to anyone, let me know, and I'll be happy to credit it and the designer of the map in the comments, or however we want to do that. But in any case, this is the map we played on. There's a little river that goes to the center and a land bridge here. I'll talk about the army that I faced. Oh yes, and this right here. This is a Brandar glyph, but it's meant to be Dagmar, so initiative +8. So there's a Valda move glyph over here, and then initiative +8 over here. I faced Tyler, a great player who I've been having a lot of fun with at our casual events. We've been doing casual Thursdays at Paradise, and we've brought a lot of fun meme armies, fun meme formats to those casual nights, and so I've had some wonderful fun casual games with Tyler. He brought the Eiseneck, so he brought Iron Lich, he brought the Necrotech, and he brought Hellforge. To round out his points, he also brought Bachburna, so 495 points, 7 hexes. So we'll talk about how this game went down. And I have to say, off the start, I realized that with the terrain kit, your options for map building are a bit limited, or you can't build every single map that you might want to, or like the more competitively balanced maps. Personally, this map, I don't know, it didn't feel super balanced or super well designed, but again, maybe I need to play on it a little bit more. In any case, what I remember is Tyler rushed forward his Necrotech. They grabbed the move glyph, and so he and his army became a lot faster. Iron Lich was moving up. I think Iron Lich moved right about there. What I did in response is I sent up Maladrix. I had her and the Honor Guard start fighting the Necrotech there, and I remember the Necrotech lasting a good long time, and they killed a good number of Honor Guard in doing so. To respond to the approaching Hellforge and Viscerat, I moved up Halusha and Familiar. So Kita, I think I started moving in this direction because I wanted her, once I dealt with the Necrotech, I wanted her to eventually take that move glyph. I forget if she did. I think I had another picture of it. But certainly I started moving up Anshu, and she started doing little plink shots at Hellforge and Viscerat. I mainly wanted Halusha to engage Hellforge because I didn't want Hellforge getting close to all my cheap little squad figures. I wanted him to duel Halusha, who could withstand a couple burns from the furnace as well as the normal attack of 4, and then Halusha's base attack of 5. I also liked Halusha because even though he has Eiseneck Advance, so he can get a free move at the start of each round, I thought Halusha will better be able, you might not be able to see it right here, but hopefully it's clear. This is the highest, this 7 hex right here is the highest point on the map. I wanted Halusha to get here, and I think I even moved Anshu right here. I basically wanted to block the opponent from grabbing this height because I wanted to be, I wanted to be hitting down on him with 6 attack. And I didn't want to be fighting Hellforge on even level. So I thought Halusha's much faster. He'll be able to claim that more quickly, and then I can better block my opponent from evening out that duel there. So the Exiles, I don't believe moved a whole lot this game. Here's the next shot. So as you can see here, I did eventually get Hal up here. It looks like I think Kita was attempting to go for Valda, but I think I must have decided it was better to bond with Anshu to keep up the attacks into the opponent. So I left Kita there. You can see the Necrotechs are gone. I believe Iron Lich and Hellforge did die at this point. And then he was down to just Bachburna versus Halusha and Maladrix. Maladrix being close by here, she was able to rush up. And I also had an Honor Guard grab the initiative +8. So it ended up being a pretty healthy win right here. I don't think Bachburna killed any of them. So yeah, pretty clear win right there. But again, I always love playing Tyler, and I have a lot of fun with him in casual. He's beat me a good number of times in casual, so that's fun. But in any case, that was one win for the day. Next up was on game 2. This is a map we do know the name of. This is Aeon by Flash 19. Classic map, one of the best. Really just excellent map. It's made with a Rise of the Valkyrie plus a Road to the Forgotten Forest set. So yeah, we'll talk about the army that I faced for this. Yes, I faced Leo. Yes, and Leo brought the ultimate army for this event. The Bears, Adalbern, Maledrix, and the Festering Honor Guard. So after that win against Tyler, I thought, okay, maybe I've got a shot, and then I saw this army, and I'm like, I don't think I can beat this. I don't think I can beat the Bears. Why did in my mind I was like, why didn't I just play the meta? How am I going to deal with Adalbern? How am I going to deal with the Bears? Oh my goodness. So yeah, I was facing good old Leo with this. Leo even told me, he was like, he said he was thinking about trying to find a different army for the event, kind of like what I was thinking, but ultimately he decided to store championship, pick the meta, feel bad about it after. I think were his words. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, I always love playing Leo. So if nothing else, I know I was going to have a good time with this event. So yeah, Festering Honor Guard, Knight Primus, you know that army. We covered it earlier. And then here's the map. You can see here, because we both have Honor Guard Maledrix, I put little rubber bands on mine, being inspired from Dylan from the mirror match game I played with him. So these would tell me that these were mine, and then his were just kind of the vanilla without the rubber bands. So this game, oh yes, and I should talk about the glyphs. This is initiative here. For competitive people, I know this is a range +4 glyph. I know that is seen as pretty broken and not very suited for competitive play. The tournament organizer had an interesting argument for why to include it. He thought that with the limited unit pool of contemporary and the fact that there were no commons, that it might be a bit fairer to include, in this event. Maybe so. You will, as we cover the rest of the games in this event, you'll actually see the Ivor glyph did not actually matter that much. I think very few figures even went for it, because really the main figures in this army, in this matchup, the only figures that would want it would be the Exiles. That's it. And I don't think I went for it this game. Or correction, I did. I'll just get into talking about it. Okay, so Leo started with his bears. He left his honor guard back at the start zone. I think one of his bears went to grab the initiative glyph, and Adalbern started moving up, and his bears started going down this way. I think I started with Maledrix. I remember I got her onto road, and I started moving up the honor guard. I think I was able to get one height attack down on one of his bears, and that may have taken it out, but the bears started engaging and attacking Maledrix and some of the honor guard. I also remember, I think I split my round between Maledrix and Halusha. I thought I need to start moving them forward. My thinking was leave the Exiles for the end game. I thought that might be handy to have a range unit. If I can get to the end game, it'd be handy to pick away at Leo's army from afar if he's down to just a couple bears in the end game. So I thought leave them back in the start zone for now. Move up Maledrix, move up the familiars with Halusha. And I think at a certain point I ended up leaving Halusha behind and just focusing mainly on Maledrix. Here's why. I forget exactly where she was when this move happened. I want to say she was... I can do a little laser pointer. I think she was right here on these two hexes. I realized that this is pretty bad to put your literal queen figure right here onto these two spaces. She is adjacent to 3 height spaces. I think I put her there because I had some honor guard guarding her, and so it actually wasn't that dangerous for her, and I wanted to set her up on road. But in any case, I did that. Again, was it the wise, most savviest play? I don't know, probably not, but that's where she was. Here's where things got interesting. So I had some honor guard fighting Leo's bears over here. I think Adalbern was preoccupied with something else. There was a moment in the game where I realized Maledrix is unengaged. She has no one around her. And I'm on road, and I can get to his Maledrix. Why do I want to get to his Maledrix? To infest. My hope is, I was really scared of this army. I thought the main way I need to fight it is I have to try to infest Adalbern and Maledrix before my Maledrix dies. If I can do that, then every round I'm rolling for the parasite. And so at that point when I realized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Holy crap, in a single turn I can get to Maledrix since I'm on road. And so in that moment, I decided, with all the bears spread out across the map, with Maledrix and her honor guard over here, unmoved, I rushed Maledrix in. So let's go ahead and see here. And there she is. Face-to-face, queen versus queen. You can see over here, Adalbern. I forget what Adalbern was doing. It looks like there's like one of those base tokens. You can get those on Etsy or 3D print them, but this bear is on the initiative glyph and he is wounded, and Adalbern is over here. I'm pretty sure Adalbern was going for honor guard. As you can see, there's only, I think there's only 2 honor guard right here. Yes, but look at this. It does appear at some point I did infest Adalburn. You can see one of my rubber banded honor guard is on his card. Now I forget why he's over here. Clearly, if I had infested him, he was engaged with Maledrix at some point. It may have been that Adalburn was maybe on this glyph or on this space right here, and maybe that's why I decided to rush her out. I forget exactly. Maybe she did actually take a disengagement. I forget, but at a certain point, I rushed her forward and I said, I gotta take this chance while I have it and see if I can infest Leo's Maledrix. And so I did. I remember I got it pretty quickly, so put a fetching on her. I don't think you can see it here. So this is before I got the infestation, but I definitely know I got it. Now, Leo is still in this game, for sure. I don't think you can see the life count on Adalburn, but he's got several bears. He's got all of his honor guard. Looks like a single wound on Maledrix right there. And here, I'm sure Leo remembers this. This got crazy. There was one round where I had both Maledrix and Adalburn infested, and then I rolled a d20, and both times I got the parasite. So in one turn, in one round I knocked out both Adalburn and Maledrix, and I think they had still a lot of lives left, so it was an incredible return on that investment. And so I think this play is what gave me the edge in this fight. Just rushing in and being able to take out Maledrix before I had to deal with, before my Maledrix was gone, was amazing. And hate to do that to you, Leo, but it happened. So, but once she dies, all of her honor guard are now charged up with Motherless Rage, and I forget exactly. So I think this is the end game right here. I was able to remember I had moved Halusha up. He was kind of back there on the map. And with that, I was able to get him closer, and I thought he would be a good tool to fight Leo's remaining honor guard. I had my last 2 honor guard here. This is the one that respawned from Maledrix. There was one other honor guard way back there that spawned because Adalburn had died. I moved up Anshu here. Anshu was good for firing little shots into the honor guard. I don't think she was very effective at it, but still, it was nice to keep up that pressure. And I think the end game was right here. So this one bear did last a very long time. And I think, so it looks like here I did actually go for Ivor with one of my honor guard here. And that's when I used them on the Exile. So with their black powder, that buffed their move to 9. And so I thought I can stay very safely far away from the bears. We did wonder, though, if Ivor would add to the buff of black powder pistols. Like, could you actually do that? If you take off a black powder marker and their move becomes... because you can only use Ivor with figures that have a base that have 4 range or higher, I think. And so the Exiles by themselves have only 1 range. But if they use black powder pistol, their range becomes 5. So because their base range is 1, are they not allowed to use Ivor even if they use black powder pistols? Do you kind of see a bit of confusion there? We eventually ruled that yes, because black powder pistol effectively increases their base range to 5, which makes them eligible for Ivor. We ruled in favor of that. But if anyone has experience with that scenario, I'd be curious to hear what you think about that, or how you would rule on that. We ruled that yes, Ivor would apply to the Exiles if they use their black powder. And so with that, I beat the scariest army I had to face that day, for sure. So that felt great, but again, I realized that a lot of that was due to luck. This would have been a very different game if none of my parasites got off. Very different indeed, but I was happy to walk away with the win. So that was 2-0. Next up, we'll talk about Game 3. Again, on this mystery map, I just don't know the name of. This was an unexpected army. I will give it that. A very unexpected army, and I was playing... I know him by his Discord handle, a single nacho. That's his Discord handle. So I've played him a couple times before. I just know him through his handle mainly. So we'll talk about his army. This was something else. Nearly half his army started off of the board, which I thought was interesting. So the green units here are the ones that started on the board, and the blue units are the ones that started off the board. So this is 475 points, and you can see he has Festering Honor Guard, all the bugs basically except for Thyraxis. So the Oathbound, the Phalanx, Fessing Honor Guard, Queen Maledrix, and then the Vord Glide Strikers and Wing Commander Tuck Harrigan. So the Glide Strikers start off the board, Tuck starts off the board, and he put all of his Legionnaires on the Phalanx. So yeah, he sat a lot of points for this, but I think he was just interested in having, if he's watching this, he can let me know, but I think he was interested in an army that started halfway off the board, that I couldn't attack it. All those figures that start off the board, I can't shoot them, I can't hit them. So again, maybe he was thinking to save them for the end game. It was an interesting build for sure. All right, we'll talk about it. So I don't remember a whole lot about this game. What I do recall is he moved his Maledrix up pretty fast, and his Honor Guard were moving up pretty fast. I think they may have grabbed the glyph. I'm not sure, but in any case, I think I started opening with my Exiles, but I was careful with them. I didn't want them to get too close to the Honor Guard. I kept them away from height spots here. I also moved up Maledrix, but I think I only moved her like right here, because again, I don't want her next to height right there. I have some Exiles on this side. They started moving up, and I also separated my Honor Guard. I forget why I only put 1 Honor Guard here and 4 on this side, but that's what I did. I just remembered that I was very slow in my development because his army was very fast, and he did drop a couple of Glide Strikers in around the board, and he put them on height, and that was pretty scary. And once he started putting them on height, that put a little pressure on me to start moving up and claim that height and take it away from him. But he had Maledrix here, guarding those height spots. I think Tuck dropped here, maybe one of these spaces here, but Tuck dropped pretty early in the game. There was a moment, I forget when, but I think it was Halusha. I was moving him up, and I was able to get a height attack onto the Phalanx, or maybe it was one of my Honor Guard, but I remember the Phalanx had stayed put for a while, and I was able to jump on it on these height spaces. Now again, it has its wound negation, and so I was able to get a couple of the Legionnaires killed off of wound negation, but still, the Phalanx stayed strong, and it still had plenty of Legionnaires on it. Oh yeah, this is the only. It looks like this is the only picture I took of the event, or of this game. But I do remember my rolls were pretty good this game. This is another game I got very lucky on. The Exiles were doing a lot of work, and I remember one Exile got all the way up here, and I still had a couple of powder markers on my last Exile who was up here. The Phalanx had started moving up. I forget if my Halusha died, but it eventually came down to like 1 Exile, maybe Maledrix, and a few Guard against the Phalanx. The Phalanx here tried to grab the Dagmar glyph, but in the end, the Exile was able to shoot it, and Maledrix was able to mop up the remaining Honor Guard and the rest of the Glide Strikers. They did all drop in, certainly, and all the figures that were off the board did land onto the board, but again, this was, yeah, it was pretty clear win, and again, a lot of it was dice. So anyway, Single Nacho, if you're watching, thank you for the game. Really interesting army that you brought, and yeah, it was a pleasure playing you. So far it was looking strong for the day. It was going 3-0, but we would then come to game 4 of the event. So at this stage, this is actually where my opinion kind of changed on the Heroscape Battle Network. It may have been user error on our part, or on whoever was setting up the tournament, but it seemed odd that this would happen. So there was one other person that day. His name is Andy. He also had gone 3-0, and so he was the person I ended up playing for game 4. But what was weird is in the app, in the Battle Network, it had declared me the winner. It had just said I was the winner, even though it still seemed like we needed one more game to really resolve who the winner was between me and Andy. And so the whole tournament closed on the app. I don't know why, and it just kind of bothered me, because it's like, I don't want to cut him out of a win if he's destined to beat me in this game. We should play this one out. And so and we don't know why. Maybe it was because the games I faced, but there was only 5 people. I can't imagine our matchup strengths were that different, Anyway, I don't know what was going on with that app, but in any case, after that event, that's kind of why I've stopped really taking diligent notes about my scores in the app, because I don't really trust the numbers it gives me. I just note in my head, here are the numbers here are the number of games I won, here are the number of games I lost that day, and I put that into my cumulative record on my channel. So if you want to see how I've been doing over time, you can check out in the channel description. In any case, what Andy and I decided to do, though, was he said, okay, Will, you can take the Goldawashia, whatever, that's fine. How would you like to... Or no, I think he said you can take the bye into day 2 of Gen Con. he said, go ahead, take that, it's yours. Let's you and me fight for the gold Awashia. And I thought that was a fine compromise. Fair enough, let's do it. Let's, he got that far. He had the same score as me. We need a championship game between the two of us. So once again, we were back on Aeon, Flash 19's map. And this was the battle for the gold Awashia. And I remember I was texting Alex. I was like, homie, we're in it, man. And he's like, go, because Alex wanted that gold Awashia. He wanted that in the group collection. And so there was a lot of pressure to really win this one, for sure. So, in any case, Andy won 3 games that day. He had the same score as me that day. And he brought the meta army. He brought the really strong one. And hey, no hate. It's good. It's good for this format. And really, half of Heroscape is identifying a strong army for a format. And then the other half is playing it well. But in any case, Festering Honor Guard, Frostclaws, Knight Primus, and Queen Maledrix. So again, I beat this army before, but again, in that last game, I got really lucky with my infestations. I killed Adalburn and Queen Maledrix with infestations. Was I going to be able to do it again this game, or could I do it again this game if I didn't get any infestations? And something worth noting here too, I think Andy heard the story about Leo putting his Queen Maledrix right here, and my Queen Maledrix rushing these road to engage and infest her. And so I think Andy said, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna put Maledrix here away from the road. So I don't know if that influenced his position, but it's worth noting that this time I would not be able to pull off that same trick. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what was happening. Maybe I was just so into the day or into the event. I didn't take any pictures of this game. Thankfully, Leo did. So thank you, Leo. Put a little credit line for you there. So we were looking at the game through Leo's pictures here. And again, they're from a certain angle. They're not top down, but I do remember this game pretty vividly because let me just say, before I talk about any of the results, this is one of the most intense and thrilling Heroscape games I've ever played. It's if I have a top 5 games of Heroscape I've played in my entire life, this one is in there along with the ball game that I talked about in my 2023 video. Anyway, enough blabbing. Let's talk about how this game actually went down. So I remember Andy started with his bears. He moved them up down this path here, Adalburn and the bears. I think they were going for that glyph, or maybe they wanted to keep me off of it, so I didn't use my exiles. He left Maledrix back, but he started with the bears. I think I left, Halusha was right there. I think I mainly started with Maledrix, yeah. So, as you can see here, my Maledrix got up to this spot here. His Adalburn's right there, has engaged Maledrix, and then 2 Frostclaws were right here. Now I had some Honor Guard, and again, I don't know why I put the Honor Guard next to Adalburn. I think maybe there was a height attack I was able to get on a lower bear, maybe that's why, but easily Adalburn destroyed that Festering Honor Guard with his crushing blow. But that is kind of what I wanted Andy to do. I want to get a couple of Honor Guard dead so I could attempt infestation. I forget if I got it on Adalburn here, but the fight really got going in this area. And as you can see, the fight further developed. Let's see. So I think I killed one of the Frostclaws with Maledrix, but Maledrix is what Andy's doing is he's softening up my Maledrix and killing my Honor Guard for the moment when he can bring in his Maledrix. So my Maledrix is going to be pretty bloodied up, and then his Maledrix is going to be fresh. So I could see what he was trying to do there. I did start moving up my exiles and taking some shots at the bears. I think 2 other exiles went down this way. Hal did move in the start zone a little bit. I forget, or maybe, I don't know. Hal, I think at one point I thought, I don't want to get super close. I know I moved Hal a little bit here, but I forget kind of what I was thinking in my head. But really, the big fight of this game was in these couple hexes right here. This right here was this was harrowing, what was happening right here. Then, here she comes. So these little pencil erasers here indicates wounds on the bears. Clever little thing that Andy did. But he brought his Maledrix here. Since it was unpainted, I didn't need to use the rubber bands. But the fight ensued, and as I think you can see a couple wounds on his Maledrix right there. My Maledrix must have been back there. She, I know, was taking some damage, and this fight here was bloody. It was bloody because Adalburn was You can hardly see it in here, but I think Adalburn did actually die. So I think, and I don't think he died to an infestation. I don't remember that happening. I think Maledrix just ended up killing him, and he ended up getting overwhelmed. But she was really hurt by the time the fresh Maledrix arrived. I think I also used some. I was using Exiles to keep Andy's Festering Honor Guard at bay, because I had had success with infestation that day. I was really worried about Andy getting an infestation off on me. That's what I was really worried about. And so I said, I'm not going to kill the Honor Guard. I'm just going to focus on Maledrix. There's pros and cons to that strategy, but it's the one I went with. And so I had the Exiles trying to fight off the Honor Guard there. This fight, it got really, really brutal. There was one moment where Andy dropped a all-4 skull attack on my Maledrix, and I think she only rolled 1 shield. There was a moment where our damage against each other was pretty steady, and then Andy broke through with a real punch to the face, and my Maledrix went down first. Yeah, she went down first, and as soon as that happened, there were gasps around the room, like, oh man, like, it was looking bad. I thought it was surely over. And then something really crazy happened. Andy, he, for whatever reason, I think I had a couple of Honor Guard engaged to Maledrix, and I think he wanted to move his Maledrix away. His Maledrix was down to a single life, but I don't think he realized it in that moment when he decided to disengage. He thought he had more wounds to safely disengage, and so he did. I didn't say anything. I just like, oh, okay, all right, you're disengaging, that's fine. I rolled the dice and I got the skull. So everyone was like, oh my god, he got it. And then Andy was like, okay, how many lives does she have left? And he said, oh no. And it was like, yeah, that just killed her. So I think Andy was our tournament organizer, so I'm sure he stayed up late building this event. And so he had admitted he was pretty tired that day, so he didn't catch that. But generally everyone agreed, because the die had rolled a skull, that we need to keep with the disengage attack. So incredibly, even after my Maledrix died, his Maledrix died. And I cannot tell you how intense it was. Like, when my Maledrix died, I thought, GG, there goes the Golden Wash. Yeah, it's over. It's over. And then when his Maledrix died, I thought, no way, I'm still in this. I'm still in it. I'm still in it. And it got incredibly close. Because of that strategy I had of not attacking his Honor Guard, I left him with 5 Honor Guard charged up to 3 attack, and I thought, oh geez, this is really bad. I didn't think this through. Like, now it's just Halusha versus the Honor Guard, and I think most of my Exiles had died too. None of us went for Ivor either, so it was really Halusha versus a really angry Honor Guard. And here was the game right here. Unbelievable. I remember this vividly. The Honor Guard started swarming Halusha. Here was this bear right here. He had a wound. I still had Anshu. Kita had died, but it really came down to the wire. And incredibly, I won. It was down to, I remember this. This was the final game. Halusha had 2 lives left, and Anshu had 2 lives left. That was all I had. And we won. We won. It was absolutely incredible, and my heart was thumping against my chest. So, thrilling game, absolutely riveting. Andy, thank you for hosting the tournament, thank you for organizing, and thank you for playing. You gave me a fight that I will never forget, and yeah, it was a pleasure. So that was amazing. Yeah, so ended up coming in first place there and got the Gold Awashia for our group collection, so that felt fantastic. And yeah, really one of the best Heroscape games I've ever played. It was crazy. So we'll look at the final score. So 4-0 win-loss, amazingly. A lot of luck went into this, with those infestations on Leo, of course. First place was the army I brought, and, there's a part of me that felt kind of good. Like, hey, I didn't run the Bears and Maledrix army. I did kind of my own thing, and I took first place, and that felt really good. Next up was second place, which was Andy. He ran the very good army, also a very good player, so well-deserved on second place. Third place was, incredibly, the Tuck Harrigan army. So, really cool to see Tuck do that well in a tournament. So that was a single nacho. And then fourth place was Leo. Leo had said his dice rolls were pretty bad that day, so he didn't end up doing well. But hey, at least his same army ended up getting second place. So that was great. So again, it was a small event, but rigorous, intense games, and I'm grateful to everyone who participated. Next up are the takeaways from this specific event. So when fighting with Maledrix and the Festering Honor Guard, while you can pursue the strategy of never attacking the Honor Guard to prevent Mal from ever infesting your unique or uncommon heroes, killing Mal first leaves the opponent with a fast 5-figure squad buff to 3 attack. The Honor Guard's poor attack while Mal is alive made me underestimate them as a threat once she was dead, especially in the endgame, and particularly in that final match. I really did underestimate the Honor Guard as 5 figures with 3 attack. I just did. And so I've now had to rethink this strategy of mine of going for Maledrix first and leaving the Honor Guard last. I'm not sure it's always wise in every scenario. Going for Mal first also means that your opponent keeps full activation potential each turn they activate Mal. This equates to that 7 potential attacks per order marker, which is punishing in the thick of battle. So the longer you're going for Mal, the longer your opponent still has all his Honor Guard on the board and getting all those extra 5 attacks. So really, that's why I think this combo is just way more interesting than the Bears. There's a lot more going on as someone playing it and as someone fighting it, and it's still very strong. I do have a theory on it. If you can get Mal down to 1 life going into a round with full Festering Honor Guard on the board, and you win initiative, if your first order marker is on a unit or combo that'll produce multiple attacks, then it may be safe to attack a few Honor Guard to thin out their numbers before Mal dies, so long as you're confident you'll also kill Mal that turn. So essentially, if it's a new round and you win initiative, if Mal has only 1 life left, if you're confident you can kill Mal with one of your attacks that turn, then maybe you can spend another one of your attacks killing an Honor Guard, so at least when she's dead, it's 4 attacks of 3 instead of 5 attacks of 3. So anyway, I think there may be something there. I'm not sure. I'll have to test that theory, but it is something I did think about with this. And then finally, thinking back to the Leo game, if a road space is part of your start zone or adjacent to hexes in your start zone, it can be dangerous to leave important figures in your start zone on or adjacent to those road spaces. Doing so leaves open the possibility that your opponent road rushes a powerful attacker into those figures in your start zone. So this is just... I didn't plan that road rush I did with Maledrix. It just presented itself in the game, and I thought, wow, I could do it. You know, going into the game, I didn't look at Leo placing his Maledrix next to road and think, oh, I've got a plan, I've got to do that. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. It just happened, and I jumped on the opportunity. But thinking ahead, if I have to go into a game like that where road is near my start zone, I got to be careful what I put near that road. Because if an enemy rushes a fast, powerful figure like Maledrix on that road, I could be punished for it. So anyway, those are the main takeaways I took from this event as far as competitive escape, but there was one more event this weekend that I want to talk about, and hopefully we'll get through that a little bit faster because the theory of crafting was not nearly as involved as this one. So took home first place, but the next event, Alex would be attending with me. And so I was trying to help my boy. I was saying, hey man, this is it. This is the moment you've been waiting for. You've been planning for this. You've been preparing for this goal to wash you, and I am going to help you win it, okay? So, anyway, we'll go ahead and talk about the next event on that weekend. Okay, and the next event was on May 11th, and this was the Doubleton format. It's not a format I have a lot of experience with, but I do know it's well established in the competitive scene. And so the unit pool was Classic, D&D, and Renegade. This excluded Marvel, Valhalla Customs, and any AoA releases after April. This is a format that's also known as All-Time, or it's something that Renegade has been referring to as All-Time, and it means any official units other than Marvel, basically, are allowed in this event. So this was a smaller format in terms of point limit, 400 Renegade points. And then there was, to my knowledge, there was no figure limit. You could field as many figures as you wanted within 400 points. Maybe there was, but I couldn't find it. And then again, the same rules. All glyphs, cards, dice, other game pieces, they all have to be official. No 3D prints. No proxies. All has to be official, and that's how it has to be. And no like custom cards, like the baseball card size conversions. None of that. But also importantly, this is going to come up later, no glyphs. Personally, I was against this. There was a discussion in the Discord, should we do glyphs or no glyphs? I said, you got to do glyphs. Like, some maps are designed around glyphs, and glyphs can help bad matchups smoothen out a little bit, you know? But they decided no glyphs. That's fine, whatever. But again, this will become important in a little bit. But first, We got to talk about Alex's army. So just as a heads up, my theory crafting for this, I was pretty tired after that tournament on Saturday. I'd done a lot of driving, and so I was mainly focused on helping my friend get the prize he had been after for so long. And so I said, all right, Alex, you want a sweaty army? You want... Here was his quote, is paraphrased. I don't care if it's meta. I don't care if people think I'm sweaty. I just want to win. So he specifically wanted that Goldawashia. Again, I'm sure he would be happy with the day 2 buy, but this was what he wanted, I think, more than anything else. So I said, all right, man, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. And if you want to be meta, if you want to be boring and meta and just as sweaty as possible, then fine, here you go. Take your Frost Claws and Adalbert. Hope you're happy with yourself. Sorry, I don't mean to sound toxic. I'm just like, yeah, you want your meta? Here you go. Here you go. A little bit of my dad's jersey's coming out there. Sorry. But anyway, I said, yeah, all right, Alex. These guys are fairly straightforward to play, and they will do well. Here you go. So I gave him the Frost Claws and Adalbert. And so I was trying to think what else could I give to round out the remaining 130 points we had in this army, or for Alex's army. And so we had 130 points left. I thought Stingers. Stingers would be good. Stingers are always good, especially in Renegade, because they don't get rebalanced for Renegade, and they're still an A tier unit. They're just consistent with their stats. And Alex loves his Morrow, so I thought, hey man, if you're gonna win the Goldawashia, win it with Morrow, right? So it'll give you range too, which your bears lack. And potentially powerful range with Stinger Drain. The only problem with Stingers, but I thought it would be fine because everyone else would be under this limitation. Doubleton hurts most common squads. That's something I should have put in the format above, but the Doubleton format is no more than 2 of any figure. So no more than 2 of a common figure, no more than 2 of an uncommon figure. So that's where the name Doubleton comes from. So Alex could only draft 2 squads of Stingers. That's 120 points. So I thought, yeah, it's a bit of a constraint on the Stingers. They tend to want to be used in large numbers, but I thought everyone has to face Doubleton. Everyone has to have work under that constraint. I think we'll be okay. I think it'll still be solid. And so for his remaining 10 points, I thought Otonashi. Yes, I know. I was thinking Otonashi for this main reason, because I thought more people would also be using the Stingers, and since the Stingers are wild, I thought Otonashi... I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. We did Isamu. Of course we did Isamu. So our friend Sammy was not able to make it to this event, but he did have an official with Isamu, so we picked it up, used it for Alex's army, and so this was the final... Oh, yeah, we'll get to it, but it was 2 Stingers, Frost Claws, and Adalburn with Isamu. That was Alex's army, and so with that, we'll get to designing my army. And like I said, this one, I have to say I was phoning it in a little bit on this one. I wasn't thinking real deeply, and I was just doing some number crunching, and I was tired, and I think I was still drafting my army a few minutes before I got into my car for the event. So, happy Mother's Day! So one of the first units I thought to draft was Queen Maledrix and the Honor Guard. They did well for me yesterday. May 11th, as you may remember, was Mother's Day. And so people realized, hey man, why are you setting up a tournament on Mother's Day? And the tournament organizer was like, oh shoot, yeah, I forgot, sorry. So a lot of people, understandably, could not come to this event, totally fine. My mom lives in Florida, which is other side of the country from me, and so I didn't have a constraint to go see her, but I did give her a call in the morning. I said, hey mom, listen, I love you dearly. Wish me luck at this children's board game I'm about to play competitively for the rest of today. And so that's how I celebrated Mother's Day with her. Oh, love you, mom. God love you. But anyway, I did Maledrix in the Honor Guard because they did well for me the previous game, and so I thought, it kind of goes with the theme, Mother's Day. You can imagine Maledrix is like, you never call me anymore. You never call. Anyway, I had a little fun with that. But I thought, yeah, it did well. I know how to play it now. It's brought me success. I will draft that in. I also thought Mal and Honor Guard were well suited to Doubleton because they were a high activation combo that was unaffected by the common squad limit and the fun nod to Mother's Day. But I thought, why not pick a strong combo that doesn't care about the Doubleton format? And I thought it would work here. So that's 220 points spent on this combo. And so we have 180 points left to spend. And this is something that, other people have observed this, but it's something I wanted to put down in writing. Drafting an all-time format at Renegade points often feels like a matter of drafting units that have gone up in Delta but haven't gone up in Renegade points. In other words, draft the Delta confirmed strong units untouched by the Renegade adjustment. And so that leaves you with, personally, I just prefer Delta all the way. And as soon as you rebalance like 10 units in Renegade, it's sort of like, oh yeah, those are the units you don't pick, but pick all the other Delta confirmed strong units that weren't touched by the rebalance. So anyway, like I said, I was kind of phoning it in. I decided, let's do Q10. And again, I was drafting like a couple minutes before. I just couldn't find anything I felt safer with than Q10. Q10 gives me range. He's got lots of ranged options, good stats, 8 range for his normal attack, 150 points. It's simple. It's uncomplicated. Whatever. There was certainly a better pick I could have made, but I just thought, what the heck. And I also thought it might be kind of cool to have a long-range unit like Q10 threatening people from afar to pull them closer to Maledrix and the Honor Guard. I don't know why. You can call it dirty if you want to. I like armies where I have a single range, I have a really strong position, like a strong melee unit in a strong position buffed by Raylin, and then a range unit that goes out and threatens people from afar, and basically, you come to me. You have to come to me. You have to come to me in my ideal position. Is that the best way to play Heroscape? I don't know, but it's a playstyle I've found enjoyable, or it's a playstyle I've just kind of gotten into the rhythm of playing, especially with Torkold and Nagrebs. That's a whole other spiel. But I thought it would be handy to have Q10 as a ranged figure to pull the opponent closer to me. And so with 30 points left, Marku and Isamu felt like the obvious filler for 30 points, but Alex is already using our group's official Isamu, and I wanted Alex to win this event, so I said he can keep Isamu. So I said with the 30 points, I'll throw in Eldgrim. But again, this was stupid. This was an absolutely stupid decision because there wouldn't be any glyphs in this event. I mainly thought, oh, Eldgrim will be good as a figure to rush up and grab a glyph, and then when he dies, I can put him on either the Honor Guard or Maledrix or even Q10. We'll have so much flexibility. And then when I got to the event, they told me, yeah, we're not doing glyphs. I was like, oh no, how did I miss that? So I gave myself a pretty suboptimal army with this, or at least what I thought was a suboptimal army, but it's the army I went with. So here we go. Yeah, I didn't pay close enough attention to our Discord's discussion of the event, and that oversight led me to draft poorly. But in any case, it's what I had. So my army was Eldgrim, Festering Honor Guard, Q10, Maledrix, 400 points, and then Alex, Frostclaws, Isamu, Adelburn, and 2 Stingers. And so with that, we went to the event. So this is at Dice House in Orange, California, so quite a bit farther from me, but right in, it's still, within driving distance. And this is a store I've been to for many very fun casual nights of Heroscape, so I have some fond memories here at Dice House from the past. So again, Swiss style, I think it was 59 minutes, but a much larger player count. This time it was 11 players at this event. And here's the army I have here, and we will talk about the games that I played. So the first game was on Platypus, and this is a map by Robber. A great map, but personally not a map I was happy to fight on because I was really hoping to abuse my my Major Q10's range to pull my enemy toward me. And this map has lots of line of sight blockers, and it has lots of bushes, so this is not a range-friendly map, but that's good. That's why it's a good map. It makes that playstyle a little tougher. So I had to think a bit more carefully about how I was going to face my opponent. And then speaking of my opponent, this was Omega Blade, I believe is his handle on our Discord, but he brought I think an all Master Set army, well, except for Eldgrim and Isamu, but a mostly Master Set army. Just some very solid units all around. Eldgrim, Exiles, Isamu, Izumi Samurai, and the Krav Maga agents, and then classic Raylin. And I have to say here, I'm just going to say it, these might be the sexiest Exile paints I've ever seen, at least I've ever seen in person. They had like red swords, red pistols, they had like shiny paint on them. They looked freaking rad. I wish I got a better picture. You can see the autofocus kind of was messed up with that tree there, but I wish I got a better picture of them because Omega Blade, you did a fantastic job on these. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the game. So I remember he moved his Exiles down this path, and he moved Raylin. I think Raylin was near a bush, so she was protected against any range attacks from Q10. And then within Raylin's aura, Omega started moving his Krav Maga to stay in it, so they were really buffed up with their stealth dodge. I think I I'm pretty sure I opened with Q10 almost exclusively on the first round. I think I put him up here and just started shooting away at Raylan as best I could. I thought, let me just try to take care of her. But the exiles were moving in. They continued down this pathway. I think they started getting some attacks in on my honor guard. I am pretty sure I moved Mal maybe on round 2. I moved her kind of like right in here or here, and I had her honor guard running around. I put her in a position where she wasn't next to height. I think right here is where I set her. But in any case, I wanted her kind of close so she could respond, but most of the work was done through Q10. And I did get a couple of lucky shots into the Krav Maga. One thing that's great about Q10 is he is a good counter to the Krav Maga. He can just machine pistol, because when you're shooting the Krav from range, you're just hoping that they blink. So it's really it's more important to just spam them with weak little attacks and hope they blank eventually, and that's what machine pistol is good for. So I think a couple machine pistols did eventually get through 1 or 2 Krav, and I forget exactly how Raylan died. I know I put some wounds on her with Q10. I think I wrist rocketed her a couple times. But I think Exiles and Krav did eventually take down Q10, but Maledrix here, the Exiles were down to 1 or 2 figures. I think there was 1 Krav. Raylan was dead. I was a little concerned about the Azumi. Double attacking into the Azumi, that could wound me. That could bite me. But somehow I did overwhelm this army, and I took the win for that day. So that was 1-0. And Omega, if you're watching, I just wish I could. I wish I could just buy an unpainted master set and have you paint those Exiles, because wow. You can kind of see him here, but they were a sight to behold in person. He did like a cool gunmetal base. It was just fantastic. So anyway, great game. Really appreciated Omega. So that was game 1 of this event. And then game 2, this was on Arroyo, another great classic map by Sir Heroscape. This is a master set only map. So it's just a really well balanced map that you can build just with a single Rise of the Valkyrie master set. It's just sort of a no nonsense, solid, balanced map. And so anyway, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I didn't take pictures of this game. I don't know why. I just forgot, but I do remember it. But I just forgot to take pictures of it. So this opponent was running. I think he went by King Riku in the in Discord or on the Battle Network. But King Riku brought all the bears except for Irene, all of them. So that's, I think, 380 points in Classic. So the Ordo, Frostclaws, and Adelburn. I'm pretty sure he used the remaining 20 points on Marku, but I could be wrong about that. But absolutely can confirm he used all 3 of these units, and hey, it's going to be a lot of hit points to get through. And again, like I said, this was the map. Was this a royal? Yeah, I think this is a royal. Did I? Yeah. Oh no, I guess not. Well, disregard. Sorry, guys. It looked similar, but it looks like this was not, in fact, a royal. I will put in the comments what map this actually was in a kind of corrections comment. But in any case, it was another similar single master set map. Apologies about that. I should have caught that. But in any case, this was the map that we played on, and I do roughly remember how the game went. So he had his Ordo here in his start zone next to these height spaces, and I remember I moved first with Maledrix. My thinking was, I think I'd like to have Q10 for the end game, because if I can take out all of his range before the end game and just reduce him to melee, then I'll get plenty of attacks into him as he's moving up to deal with Q10. So I thought Maledrix is the answer. I moved her up right here. Festering Honor Guard were running along here, and at some point, I think she and some Honor Guard did get some height attacks onto the Ordo down here, which was great. But he was moving up Adelburn and his Frostclaws, and they were killing plenty of Honor Guard. I was able to infest Adelburn, and if memory serves, I got the Parasite. I actually killed Adelburn. I forget what life count he was at when he died, but he did in fact die. That was pretty stunning, especially after the previous day. However, I think Maledrix actually went down pretty fast, and so he had a couple of Frostclaws and a couple of Ordos still left, and it was just most of the Honor Guard were dead too. I think I had like 1 Honor Guard kind of like running around here, kind of trying to position better to maybe get a sneak attack on one of the bears, but it really came down to like 1 or 2 Honor Guard versus my Q10. He still had an Ordo, which I was pretty scared of. If Ordo got onto height and shot down Q10, he could put some wounds on Q10 for sure. So I tried to keep distant from the bears with Q10. I think Q10 took a couple wounds, but he did eventually kill the remaining bears, and with that brought me the win. But you know, even with that infestation, even with that parasite roll, it was still, it got surprisingly close. So King Riku, if you're watching, I had a great time playing you, and yeah, that was now looking at 2-0 for my score. And again, sorry about the misremembering of the map. I'll get the name of this map when I finish this video. But game 3, and this actually ended up, well, I won't spoil it, but Platypus on the same map I had faced earlier, and this was game 3 of that day, and I was facing an old Heroscape opponent of mine, someone I've faced many times before. This was Roberto, also known as Mr. Always Wonder. I've had lots of great casual games with Roberto, and I've had lots of great competitive games with Roberto. He's beaten me, I've beaten him. It's always a good time playing him. So he brought to this event Stingers and Queen Maledrix and the Honor Guard. He also brought Wing Commander Tuck Harrigan. So before I talk about Tuck, it is worth noting that most people that day, most armies that day, did have Maledrix and the Honor Guard. She was everywhere. Maybe people were eager to try out the new figure after she had just released, or maybe people just, like me, sense she's going to be good for this format. So lots of people brought Maledrix, and hey, it's Mother's Day, it works, right? And lots of people also brought 2 squads of Stingers. So I wasn't the only one who thought that would be strong. So in any case, that's what Roberto brought. And then he also brought Tuck Harrigan. That was so cool to see another competitive army that was taking Tuck seriously. I'm not trying to sound condescending. I'm sure there's cool things you can do with Tuck. He's just not someone you think of as a competitive unit, especially in the AOA roster. But in any case, he brought him, and there is a reason he told me he brought him, and I thought it was really clever, but we'll get to that after the game. So in any case, this is a game where I made some pretty big blunders. So he moved up his Stingers, and Maledrix went this way, I remember. Again, if there were glyphs on this map, it would have been interesting, but no glyphs. So I thought to first move up Q10. I think I tried to get Q10 here, and it took a while for him to get there, but I wanted him to start shooting into the Stingers so I could reduce Roberto's army to just melee only. But Q10 was not having a good time of it. The Stingers were near bushes, or my rolls were bad. It was just, he was not able to take out many Stingers, and the Stingers were putting a lot of wounds on him. Maledrix was moving up here, and I thought, you know what, I think I'd like to, since I think I put my Maledrix right here, similar to the previous game on Platypus, but I thought it's going to take Maledrix a while before she can get to Roberto's Maledrix. Let me use Wrist Rocket while I have it and put a few wounds on her. Roberto played his Honor Guard really well. He denied me height all over the place. He trapped Q10. He trapped Q10 like right here, and he had his Honor Guard here and here. I was like, oh no, how have I let myself walk into this? I felt just terrible. I mean, I was having fun, of course, but I was, in terms of, you know, my frustration with how poorly I played, I was like, how did I get in this mess? Now I did think, because there was this little lower spot here, Maledrix was moving in, and for whatever reason I thought she wouldn't be able to reach me that turn, because this is a single hex lower space, so she can't end her movement adjacent to Q10, so I was safe for a little bit, and I could spend Q10's turns killing Honor Guard, and that is indeed what I did. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I forgot to move him once the Honor Guard were dealt with. I just left him there. You know what Maledrix did? She just rushes up and grabs this, and she drops a bunch of attacks down on Q10, and he in pretty short order died, and it was looking bad. And then to add injury to insult, or however that phrase goes, insult to injury, Tuck Harrigan dropped, and he dropped nearby. He dropped right here, I think near this bush. So he was in play now. I've pretty quickly Q10 died, and I just had Maledrix. However, I had softened up his Maledrix. I had killed a few Stingers, so I thought maybe a fresh Maledrix Honor Guard still has some tools into this. The Honor Guard were moving out, they were engaging Stingers, and they were killing a good number of Stingers. But he killed a few number of Honor Guard, which I thought, great. Maybe now I have a shot at infesting his Maledrix. Roberto, I don't know if you're watching, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think I did. I think I got another infestation on his Maledrix, and yeah, I was like, oh my god, I'm still in this, I'm still in it. But he still had plenty of Stingers, he still had some Honor Guard left, and my Maledrix was pretty wounded, and I think I was out of Honor Guard. At a certain point, I think I lost all my Honor Guard, and it was just down to Maledrix. Weirdly, I rushed Maledrix all the way to his start zone, because I think I wanted to keep his stingers from getting height, so I engaged a bunch of stingers with my Maledrix here, and she was just running around trying to kill them. But eventually, I think it was a single stinger that brought down Maledrix in his start zone, and he just placed his figures so well that there was nowhere I could go to get even out the get an even fight against him. He just was rolling more dice, and that ended up overwhelming my Maledrix. So it came down to Tuck Harrigan versus my Eldgrim, and like a single stinger, I think. And I thought, oh, maybe if I get one turn where I can overextend, maybe I can get 2 attacks into Tuck and maybe take him out, and maybe I'm still in this. No. The problem was Tuck was placed in such a way that I'm pretty sure Tuck was placed right here, and so there was just no easy way for Eldgrim to get 2 attacks. He could overextend, but he could only get 1 attack. And so with that, Tuck killed Eldgrim, and I lost that game. So hey, Roberto, you played that army beautifully, and you get a lot of props for winning. Going to a competitive event with Tuck Harrigan. I think, yeah, and so does Single Nacho from earlier. Just bringing unexpected units like that was great. Now, Roberto's reasoning for bringing Tuck, if I remember correctly, is there's nothing on Queen Maledrix's card that says you can't infest your own unit. So he actually brought Tuck as like a blood bag or whatever for Maledrix to infest, and then she could bring back one of her Honor Guard if need be. I thought that was pretty interesting. But Tuck ended up just being good as an endgame unit that I couldn't beat with what little I had. So anyway, I was now 2-1, and here is where things got interesting. Leo's Revenge. This is what I called Leo's Revenge from yesterday. So Leo went to both of these events as well, and so Leo's army was Festering Honor Guard, Mara Stingers, and ×2, and the Oathbound Legionnaires, which I thought was a really clever 50-point filler unit. Even though they didn't have their phalanx, it's 4 figures, 6 move, 3 attack, 3 defense with disengage. Not bad. So I props to Leo for finding out that clever little filler unit there. But basically, the reason I call this Leo's Revenge, he and I were both 2-1 before the top cut was called, but his matchup strength was just a wee bit higher than mine, and so I was narrowly pushed out of top cut, and he advanced to the top 4. So the top 4 games would play 2 more games to determine the winner of this tournament. So I like to think of this as this was Leo's revenge for the double infestations I got on him yesterday. If you look at the scoreboard on Battle Network, my name is right below his. We have the exact same score, but it was decided my matchup strength was just a little bit weaker than his, and so he took it. But what this ended up meaning for me, though, is I could spectate my friend. Alex was doing very well that day. I think Alex he may have been 3-0 at the time, or maybe I think he was 2-1, but he had a very strong matchup strength, and so he ended up making top cut. So I thought, my man still has a chance. Alex still has a chance right here. So I was excited to see him, and I was like, hey, since I'm out of the top cut, I can just spectate and watch my man do his stuff. So I was happy that he had made top cut, and I was happy that the army was doing well for him. Now let's look at game 1. I don't have any footage of this game, but it was Alex versus Roberto. So same army that I fought that knocked me out of the championship or the top cut. I remember this being actually I don't know if I watched this game as intently, but I do remember this was the matchup. What was the result? The two fought each other hard, and Alex took it. I was like, oh my god, he's doing it. He's so close. I was just so hyped. I was like, he's doing it. Oh my god. So he took it, and it was looking really good. It was looking good for Alex. But his path to victory was going to be very, very difficult. So by winning this match, Alex was in the championship game. So game 2 of the top cut was the championship. So this is a Walk in the Grassy Plains by Leopard. I can certainly confirm this map. This was definitely the map that we played on. It's a standard map, nothing fancy going on with it. But the army that Alex was facing was a monster. This was Dutch Bandit. He brought a fantastic army for this format, and for whatever reason, it just didn't occur to me that an army like this would kick ass in Doubleton. So this is Blade Gruts ×2, Heavy Gruts ×2, Isamu, Marku, Nerak, and Tornak. So you have a double bonding squad. They both bond with powerful support figures here, and then just lots of health points of filler in these two right here. Super, super optimized for this format. And actually, as soon as I saw that day, as soon as I saw that army, before the games even started, I thought, oh no, I think this thing is going to win. I think this army's going to win. I thought, yeah, oh my god, how did I not foresee this? Like, I knew that Blade and Heavy Gruts might show up at this event. Somehow it didn't. I think maybe, like, subconsciously I knew them together would be really strong, but I just didn't fully realize that this might show up. So that was a learning experience for me, just the fact that this army had gone like 4-0 that day, so it was really strong. Actually, Alex had faced this army earlier that day, and Alex came very close. I think he came closer than anyone else at beating this army that day. It came down to like two of Alex's Stingers and his Isamu versus Dutch's Marku and Isamu, and it got really close. Dutch did eventually win it, but still, I mean, man, what a great army, and Dutch gets lots of points for spotting this army and selecting it and bringing it to this event. So I thought, you know, Alex, you came really close to beating this army once before, maybe you can do it again. And I thought, Alex, your army has tools, your army has advantages this army doesn't. If you can leverage those tools and play your cards right, you might be able to do it. So anyway, here was the map, and here was the event. This was the championship game, and I thought, Alex, you are so close to this Gold Dawashia. I want to see you bring it in. So I stayed back. I didn't offer any commentary because I didn't want to bias the championship game. The whole store surrounded us, and we were watching the game play. So I remember this pretty vividly. Alex spent turn 1 moving up his Stingers, and I think Dutch won initiative, and so he moved up Tornak first, and then a bunch of his Heavy Gruts afterwards. So Nerak was back here, and because Nerak is behind that wall, he wasn't able to see Tornak and the Heavy Gruts. Then Alex moved up some Stingers first, and I think a couple of Blade Gruts were within range of Tornak, but Alex got a couple of attacks with his Stingers on, and I think put maybe 1 wound on Tornak. See, one of the reasons this army is so good is all these buffs are layering over each other, and but when you take one of the major buffing figures out of the equation, because he's behind this ruin, Alex had a real shot at taking out Tornak. And then on Alex's next turn, even as Dutch was bringing in more Gruts for reinforcement, Alex put Stingers up on height, and he put, I think, 2 wounds on Tornak and nearly killed him. I thought, we're not even done with round 1, and Alex has almost killed Tornak. I thought, oh my god, if Alex kills Tornak if Tornak is one of the first figures that Alex kills, I thought he will make this game a lot easier for him if he does that. I thought, oh my god, Alex, you could do this. And then I was stunned to see Alex put his Order Marker 3 on the bears. Now, Alex had his reasons for doing it. I think he wanted to make sure his bears were in response range at a certain point, but I thought, oh no, why did you do that? I thought, you should have. My intuition, and anyone who plays competitive, you're welcome to weigh in on this, but my intuition was, if you spent the first 2 turns on the Stingers and you got them into that great position, you really should have put the entire round on them. So that, turn 3 on the Stingers, you could probably kill Tornak. He still hadn't even moved up Nerak. I thought, this is your opportunity. Alex didn't for whatever reason, and that was that. And at that point, I think Dutch realized he needed to get Nerak in because Tornak was in such danger. So he did move Nerak in. He moved in additional Gruts, and I remember Dutch was very carefully and very savvily putting his in a savvy way. He was moving his orcs onto this height spot, and they were taking out the Stingers. So Alex he had his bears. He did move his bears up a little bit, but then Alex did something that. I love you, man. I love you, Alex. This move kind of surprised me. He moved Adalburn right here, or here, next to these height spots. And so you had a situation where Adalburn, yeah, he was getting his crushing blow into a couple of orcs and getting his 5 attack, but all these height spots here were occupied by Dutch's figures, and they were supported by both a still alive Tornak and Nerak. And to be sure, Alex had some terrible rolls that day, to be sure. I remember the game started almost feeling like somber. It was bad. And so I thought, oh no, no, come on, Alex. Like, and at a certain point, Dutch had such momentum and had, he was rolling really well, but he was rolling well because he had increased the number of dice that he was rolling through height, through Tornak, and through Narak. It was like a single blade grower was rolling like 5 dice. It was intense. Some of the bears came in. They made some progress on kind of the sidelines here, but eventually it was a pretty clear win for Dutch after that. And this was the final play right here. So I think it looks like Alex did actually take out Tornak, which was good to see, but it looks like a full squad of heavy gruts and one more heavy grut back at base, all the blade gruts, and Narak still alive against the Samu, who's defending himself on that perch right there. And Dutch, before I say anything else, I just want to say you picked an excellent army and you played it well. And so I thank you for giving it your all, and making sure you played your best into Alex. I want Alex to play against people playing their best. Dutch has really shown himself to be a great player. But I do want to talk about this event, about this game for a couple of reasons, because I don't know if Alex is watching, but I remember when we drove home, it was rough. It was sort of like Alex had wanted. Now Alex got his silver Awashia. I was like, hey man, you got an exclusive figure, and our group did win a gold Awashia, so there you go. But Alex wanted his own gold Awashia. What I tried to tell Alex was, look man, it's a dice game. Bad game rolls, or games with bad rolls happen, and truly Alex's rolls were abysmal. They were terrible. They were really, really bad. And so I said, hey man, stuff like this happens. It happens in Heroscape. It can be disheartening, but it's important not to hate the dice and not to hate the game. It's important to just try to analyze your game, not in terms of, oh, the dice gods were against me, but more in terms of what could I have done to make my dice likelihood better and my opponent's likelihood worse. But I think Alex, after that game, he was like, I don't want to talk about Heroscape. So I was like, okay, I understand. But I do want to analyze this game kind of from my end in terms of ways that I think Alex could have leveraged the army, and I'd be open to hearing everyone's thoughts here. What I thought is, Alex has range, Dutch does not. That is something that Alex really needs to lean into to help him out. And it looks like Alex was doing that in the first turn. I think it was a mistake. If Alex opened with the stingers, he should have fully committed that entire round. That would have been a chance to take out Tornak, and then that's one massive attack and defense buff that none of the gruts are going to get for the rest of the game. Makes everything easier to kill for the bears. I also thought, too, it was important to get Adalbern onto a single hex height. There were a couple places to do it. He could go up onto this hill right here if he wanted to, but there was also a single hex height right here. Since Dutch's army doesn't have any range, it doesn't matter where the single hex height is. Dutch has to come to you, especially if you have range. So it's important to put Adalbern right here, so that, let's say Dutch surrounds him with a bunch of gruts, then the gruts are attacking a figure that has 4 defense now, and Adalbern is attacking down with 6 attack, plus Crushing Blow. That's very likely to kill 2 gruts each turn, plus whatever activations you get through the bears. So I thought what Alex should have done is, certainly round 1, all on the stingers, but then round 2, use this, maybe turn 1 on the bears to get Adalbern into position right here. It can be right here, that's fine. And then use the stingers to start shooting at Dutch's orcs, and start pulling that whole formation toward you, toward Alex. That's generally the play I thought should have happened. But, you learn through mistakes. And I've made mistakes before in this game. God knows I made mistakes before in this game. I've made serious blunders. I've come in last place in a tournament before. So, I don't think Alex has ever come in last place. I have. So you learn, the greatest teacher is mistakes. And so, my main thing here is I tried to console Alex, and I tried to say, hey man, like, games like this happen. But also, too, to remember, Alex came in second place for this event. So here's the final score. So my score was 2-1 win-loss. First place was Dutch. Excellent player, excellent army, well deserved. And so he got his gold Awashia and day 2 bye at the World Championship. And then Alex came in second place. Second place out of 11 players in a dice game? That is outstanding. That is excellent. And you should never feel, by any metric, Alex had a good day. He played the army well, but I think it was just the fact that there was prizes on the line for it, and he had been wanting it for a while. I know it was rough for him. But he still did very well that day, and he should commend himself for that. And then third place was Roberto. Roberto came in third place out of 11 with Wing Commander Tuck Harrigan. So I think that deserves some street cred for that, for being able to pull that off. That I thought was great. And then fourth place was, I believe, yes, Leo. Leo took fourth place because he knocked me out of top cut because he had a better matchup strength. Yeah. But anyway, well-deserved Leo. These are the top 4 players that day. And yeah, it was a great event, but it ended on a bit of a downer for Alex just because of that loss. Let's go over first the takeaways before I talk about kind of what is coming from my friend group from these events. So this is a note from me. Make sure you fully know the format before you draft. Double-checked every detail about the format, figure limit, hex limit, point system, glyphs or no glyphs. Don't cut yourself out of a stronger build just because you misread a format. And that's what I'm talking about with me picking, Eldgrim instead of Marku Isama. I should have just asked someone for an official Isama if they could spare me one. But no, I misread it and I picked a stupid unit for that format. So felt bad about that, but hey, live and learn. And then when you have a multi-turn strategy that goes into the next round, for God's sake, don't forget that strategy. My one loss that day was largely because I'd forgotten my plan to move Q10 out of danger going into the next round. My failure to protect him made the rest of the game an uphill battle that ended in defeat. So that was that one move I mentioned where I said, Q10 is safe for now. I'll leave him there, and then next round I'll move him. And for whatever reason, I forgot to move him. I just forgot to move him. I forgot why. So little things like that. I was also probably pretty tired. Excuses, dog, and excuses. Excuses for failure. But yeah, I was pretty tired that day, and I just, wasn't playing at my best for sure. But next up is double bonding builds are very strong in Doubleton, and this was evidenced by Dutch's excellent Blade Heavygruts army, 2 squads that could both activate supporting heroes. Similar builds may be Knights of Weston McDurk Warriors with Human Champions, and Roman Legionnaires Sacred Band with Einar Warlords, though this format precluded strong versions of both of those armies. Yeah, so, sorry, I threw my headphone off to the side, but yeah, I just thought, I just thought it was... Seeing Dutch play his army and seeing him bring this army, it did teach me, for future Doubleton events, seriously consider double bonding armies like this, especially if the points limit is higher. You've got a bit more options. Just highly optimized and very good for Doubleton. And then next, this is kind of, if Alex is watching this, I mean this also for him, but just for anyone who gets frustrated at this game. There are times that I've gotten frustrated at this game. There are times where I'm playing in a tournament. I remember one time I was playing Kobe, and I remember I had some really bad rolls, but don't get discouraged by bad roll games. It happens to everyone, and it's inevitable the more Heroscape you play. It's going to happen to you. It just comes with the territory. It's generally wise to always anticipate your rolls are going to be bad, and then you have to try to manage your forces so as to maximize your roll chances and minimize your opponents. Remember that top 3 out of 10 or more players in a dice game is very good. So if you get to that championship game and you only get second place, you should be very proud of yourself. Second place is excellent in a dice game. But referencing that Kobe event, we did a VC uniques only, and I remember I had some turns where I was like, I could beat him if I just get one hot roll, and I just didn't. But the problem was, why did I put myself in a scenario where I was relying on hot rolls? Why was I in a scenario where it's like, I just need one strong attack? I should have played my figures better so that I wasn't leaning on that as heavily, if that makes sense. So it's important not to blame the dice, although sometimes it really is the dice, but never, it's not good etiquette to do that with your opponent, I don't think. So in any case, thank you all for watching. I know this was a longer video than usual, but we covered 2 tournaments. The main reason I wanted to get this out right away is because there's another store championship that I'll be going to in June, and another store championship that Alex will be attending with me. So we're both going to one more store championship this month, June 12th. And I think Alex is registered, and what I'm hoping is, Alex fan, it's time to rally. I want to see a rocky montage of you training and getting back up, and life isn't about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up, and you learn the most from failure. And my hope is that me and Sammy were helping build some armies, and try to think of good formats or good armies that would be good for Alex. And my hope is that if you guys are watching this, give my man some love, give him some support, and give him some encouragement that he can do this. I know he can do it, and I want to see him do well in this next event, because he still has a chance at that gold Awashia, and I would love to see him take it. So anyway, folks, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for sitting through this. Hope you got lots of painting done for any painting folks out there. As always, have a great rest of your day, and stay safe, and scape on.